Everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're coming at you with our week 2 preview, picks, fantasy football slash betting plays for every single game, our favorite start sits for every single game. We'll go in depth on all 16 games this week. Super excited. Week 1 was a weird week, a lot of odd outcomes fantasy wise and score wise, some surprises to say the least, but excited for week 2. Things should kind of even out here and it should be a really fun week. How are you, Stores?
Doing good. Ready to go. Ready to get into week two. Ready to move off of week one, especially with my pick'ems, especially betting on the Panthers. You guys broke my heart. I'm never betting on you again. I'm never doing a hot take on you again. And Panthers fans, I'm sorry, but I've got some salt in my running through my blood with really just betting on you guys and betting on your coaching staff. And they broke my heart, man. So sorry, Panthers fans, you won't be getting any more hot takes.
Yeah, good transition into our week 1 records. I finished 11-5 on my picks. You finished 9-7. Neither of us did too crazy. I would have, liked to at least hit 12. So yeah, no, hopefully in week 2 we kind of have more information and we'll do better in our picks this week. But let's go on to our lock of the week segment. We did pretty solid on our locks last week, and let's get into them for week 2. We obviously took the CD Lamb free line the Underdog gives you for the next few days, so take advantage of that. And then do you want to give your locks of the week?
Yes, I'll do my two right here, which is Jahmyr Gibbs higher than 28.5 receiving yards. With the volume that Jahmyr Gibbs, is getting, his valuable touches will be through the air. He is, this team's receiving back. Him and David Montgomery about 50-50 on the ground, but Jahmyr Gibbs will receive, that third down work, those dump off screens. And with this one, 28.5, Jahmyr Gibbs can break that in one play very, very easy. So that one felt like a lock for me, and I'm going to be going on that one. And then my second lock will be Mr. Josh Allen in a rivalry game with the AFC East versus AFC East matchup here versus the Dolphins. And you can expect Josh Allen to be Superman in this, whether it's running the ball, whether it's passing the ball. He is going to, he's going to hit this line, I think, pretty easy. This should be the shootout game of the week. This should be the highest scoring game of the week. And it's going to be fun, man. So turn on your TVs for this one. This one is going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, we went with the theme here. The Lions game, the Bills game, and the Rams game are all going to be some of the highest scoring games of the week. So definitely we're targeting the high scoring games. Josh Allen always goes off against the Dolphins. Jahmyr Gibbs receiving lines are always just locks. And then I went with Cooper Kupp higher than 87.5 receiving yards. He had 112 last week, and he's gonna be hyper targeted. The volume is just ridiculous with Cooper Kupp right now with no Puka Nacua and against a pretty soft Cardinals defense. I think Cooper Kupp has himself a day. Wouldn't mind his touchdown lines either. That being said, let's go on to our Thursday night football game. Really excited to talk about this one of the better games of the week, easily. The 1-0 Buffalo Bills are going to go into Miami and play the 1-0 Dolphins. Big AFC East battle here. The Dolphins are 2.5 point favorites at home. So this will be a really fun game, a really fun matchup. The Dolphins will be in the throwbacks at home, so they're going to be hyped up coming off that win. No Mostert will definitely change things. Achan's very questionable, so if they both can't go, I think that definitely changes the outcome of the game. So definitely monitor Achan's health. And the Bills are 12-2 in the last 14 matchups against the Dolphins. That's a pretty crazy stat. The Bills just historically own this Dolphins team. Really, it sounds rough, but they really do. Josh Allen has days when he plays against the Dolphins. Last year, he was the QB1 and the QB4 against the Dolphins in fantasy. So expect Josh Allen to have a day, hence why we took his over on just total yards. And I think this will be a high scoring, fun game in Miami. Could disappoint because I do think Miami's defense is a lot better than, the last few years. I think this Miami defense could be pretty solid and maybe even hold Josh Allen in check. That being said, I got to go with the history. Like I said, the Bills are 12-2 in their last 14 matchups against this team, and I just think Josh Allen's too much of a Superman, too much of a superhero. Getting my pick out of the way, I got the Bills in this one. I'm not putting money on it because I do think it could go either way, but I will be taking the Bills in a high scoring battle.
Yeah, I love it what you said. And yeah, the Bills are what is it, 12-2 against them in their last 14 games. Josh Allen is 10-2. So out of the 12 games he's played, he's beat them 10 times. And I don't really foresee that changing. This this Bills team kind of just has the Dolphins number, and they play them great. And so I don't really expect anything to change. Obviously the Dolphins are going into this matchup mostly healthy. Raheem Mostert looks like he will not be playing. Devon Achane was at practice today. It would be fun to see a little bit of rookie Jalen Wright, but I think they'll opt to go with Jeff Wilson as the lead number two. So I do think that maybe affects it just a little bit, to sway my opinion a little bit more towards the Bills. But I think this is going to be Superman Josh Allen versus Tua. And if I'm a betting man, I'm picking Josh Allen over Tua every single day. I think he just has that different kind of X factor to him to really take over this game. But like I said, it's gonna be freakishly close. Like you said, it's kind of scary to bet on just because there's Tyreek Hill, the most lethal player in the NFL on the other side. But yeah, I'm gonna be rocking with the Bills.
Yeah, and I like you bringing up Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. So for moving into fantasy, obviously you start all the known starters in these two teams. You're starting Achan, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, James Cook, Keon Coleman at this point is kind of a lock. Kincaid's a lock. So you know who you're starting. Obviously, Josh Allen's the number one quarterback. Tua could even be started in this matchup because it will be higher scoring. He will be throwing some touchdowns. But if Achan doesn't go, Mostert's already been rolled out. I do think Jalen Wright and Jeff Wilson can be started. I think I would prioritize Jeff Wilson just a little bit because he's been, active. Jalen Wright was a healthy scratch last week. So I do think I would prioritize Wilson, but I think Jalen Wright could be really fun. Definitely has more upside if he plays in that Achan role, gets some receiving work. I think he could be a nice boom for you. So definitely monitor the Achan situation and then fantasy is kind of useless in this game because you're starting all the stars in this high scoring matchup.
And really look forward to Keon Coleman taking another step forward. In week one, it looks like Keon Coleman going forward will be this team's wide receiver one. He is the most talented guy out there. And so that should be something to keep an eye out for. I think Keon Coleman is a must start if you have him on your team. I think he's a wide receiver two flex play all day long.
Yeah, the wide receiver one in a top five offense in the NFL. He's definitely made himself a must start already as a wide receiver two in fantasy. So beautiful pick if you did get Keon Coleman. Let's move on to the Sunday morning games. We'll start it off with the 0-1 Cleveland Browns going into Jacksonville playing the 0-1 Jaguars. Jaguars are 3-point home favorites. This should be a good one. Deshaun Watson looked like words I don't even want to say on this podcast. He looked terrible. He looked scared. He looked like he was in a different planet. Against the Cowboys, he was seeing ghosts, throwing it 20 yards out of bounds on a deep ball. Just a very bad outing. I know he's going up against a good defense, but it was just pretty embarrassing, honestly. The Jaguars actually are really respectable against Miami. If ETN didn't fumble that game away, I think they would have won that game. And if they didn't allow that long Tyreek Hill touchdown, the Jaguars were handling that game. So they impressed me. I am higher on the Jaguars. I was all offseason. I think they're going to be a really solid team this year. I think Trevor's awesome. He had that beautiful, beautiful throw to Brian Thomas Jr. Speaking of Brian Thomas Jr., he's a freak. You can already tell he's going to be a star in the NFL. He looks like one of the better receivers in the NFL, and I'm not even exaggerating. He just looks awesome. So if you drafted him in fantasy, he was a complete hit. Start him really. Even against this tough Browns defense, I'm starting Brian Thomas Jr. because I think he's that good. I think he might not even be the focal point. He's so good. I think the Browns might just put Denzel Ward on him and shadow him. He's that good. But I am confident in him. I'm starting him every single week right now, kind of like Keon Coleman. And I'll just go into my pick. I'm talking nice about the Jaguars. I'm going to pick the Jaguars because Deshaun Watson, man, he just makes me sick. He's so bad. I think this Browns team's one of the best on paper in the entire NFL, but Deshaun Watson needs to prove something because he is abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious there is one key player in this matchup that affects everything, And I would honestly probably pick the Browns to win this game if Jameis Winston was playing. That's how confident I am in this team. But Deshaun Watson is just terrible. I mean, Amari Cooper last week went I mean, Amari Cooper's a really, really good receiver, but Amari Cooper went um 2 receptions on 9 targets for 16 yards last week, which is just unacceptable for a guy of that talent. So I'm hoping, we should definitely see some positive regression, but almost on these Browns, wide receivers and stuff, I am a little freaked out. I'm a little scared. Garbage time got him a little bit of points last week, but I'm hesitant. I really am hesitant. I do think, you can't get much worse from last week, so I'm expecting some positive regression. David Njoku, he's out. And so I do feel like, if you drafted Amari Cooper, you kind of have to start Amari Cooper. Jerome Ford is a must start, obviously, because, he's one of the best players on this team and they need to be running this offense through the ground. But yeah, I'm on the same wavelength with you. I'm riding with the Jaguars, and it is because of one key person. That's Deshaun Watson. He's just a terrible quarterback.
Yeah, summed it up perfectly. Deshaun Watson needs to prove something. He looks like he just has lost it all. He really does. It's crazy to even think about the Texans, Deshaun Watson at this point, how good he once was and what he is now. It's really one of the craziest things we've seen in the NFL in a long time. Gonna be a close game. I'm not betting on this game or anything just because the Browns defense is so good that it could give Trevor some problems. It's a dominant defense. The coverage will be really, really good. Myles Garrett will be on Trevor all game. So it's going to be a really close, fun game to watch. Definitely why we, had it up here in priority to talk about. I'm excited about it. Moving into fantasy, like I said, I'm starting Brian Thomas Jr. against this tough defense. You're obviously starting ETN. Tank Bigsby, make sure he's not on your waivers because he's definitely a good handcuff back, one of the best, and someone you should be rostering and don't start yet. I'm not starting Trevor in this matchup. Evan Ingram, I'm benching. He was really disappointing. I'm just straight up benching him. If you could have got like an Isaiah Likely or even a Colby Parkinson, I got to see it from Evan Ingram. I know he scored 2 touchdowns against the Browns last year, actually, but maybe that means the Browns are just going to even, focalize Evan Ingram more and try to shut him down this game. So I'm out on Evan Ingram right now. I'm not looking to start Christian Kirk as well. He scared me last week, so I'm kind of waiting and seeing with those two. For the Browns, like you said, Jerome Ford must start. You smash start him top 20 running back to me right now, and Amari Cooper, and that's it with Njoku hurt.
Yeah, 100% agree. You sum that up perfectly. It's going to be an entertaining game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns defense scores more than their offense, though.
Yeah, that definitely could be the case. They could even win this game. That's how good that defense is. But we'll move on to the next Sunday game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 1-0, are going to go into Detroit, into the Dome, play the Lions, who are 1-0. The Lions are 7.5-point home favorites right now. This should be a really fun game. Playoff rematch, two NFC playoff teams, two offenses that are awesome. The Bucs are coming off the most explosive offensive performance in the whole NFL. Baker Mayfield's coming off the best quarterbacking performance in the NFL in week 1. So it will be a hot team going into Detroit, into the Dome. Target this game and betting and in fantasy, you want a piece of this game because it's going to be very high scoring. So excited to watch this game for sure. I think the Bucs could surprise in this game. I think they could upset the Lions at home. I wasn't too impressed with the Lions against the Rams. They didn't really put up a too good of a performance. Their defense actually impressed me more than the offense. But I do predict Amon-Ra St. Brown to get a lot more involved in this game. I'm not going to bet on this game because I think that line is a little bit too big. I would actually say that the Bucs will cover the spread. So if you're betting against the spread, I think I'd take the Bucs. But I'm going to take the Lions to win this game outright at home. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown gets back on track, has a big game, might take his touchdown line in this one, and I'm really excited about him. I think they're going to, prioritize him in their game plan. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, has a great game through the air. I think David Montgomery has another great game, so start him. You're starting everyone in this game. Let's be real. Godwin's coming off a fantastic game. Mike Evans coming off a legendary game. You start really everyone in this game. You just want a piece of it. And I'm going to go with the Lions in a fun game.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting game. And like you said, Baker Mayfield quietly just had one of the better performances in all of the NFL last week. And, there was no slouch from losing Dave Canales last year. I mean, they took over and this offense was hot and just running through Baker Mayfield, and Mike Evans looked great, Chris Godwin looked great, Rashad White looked great. It just looked like they were on fire last week. Obviously, they're going to be playing a much tougher defense with Detroit now, so it should really test how good this team is. So this is going to be a real testing game, which I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what that, electric Bucks offense can do. And, I'm excited to see the Lions, two tough games in a row. You just took care of business with the Rams. You got another tough one in front of you with the Buccaneers. It is an indoor game. So, I'm not betting against Jared Goff when he's playing inside, and it's going to happen a lot this year. So I expect the Lions to be very good. And overall, I do think this Lions team is more talented. I think they'll own the trenches on both sides of this. I think their offensive line is going to manhandle, the Buccaneers. And I think their defensive line is going to manhandle that Buccaneers O line. So, I think it's going to be one in the trenches. I think it's going to be a really big fist fight. But I think ultimately, the Lions and their ability to run the ball more consistently is going to be ultimately what's the X factor in this.
Yeah, that Lions run game is just special, really. Two great running backs. And in fantasy, like I said, it's really simple in this game as well. You're starting everyone. The only fringe guy that I can even think of is Jameson Williams. I'm starting him in this game, coming off a great game. You just got to ride the flames with him in this high scoring matchup. And then I'm starting both Goff and Baker in fantasy. If you're down bad and at quarterback, if you had Jordan Love that got hurt, I'd start either one of them in this game. I'm just targeting this game, starting everyone, even the fringe options. So really excited about this game. Anything else you want to say on it?
No, but this again, between this game and the Dolphins and the Bills, they're going to be shootouts, man. I feel like it's going to be an offensive driven game, and they're going to be slinging the ball, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Red Zone will be showing this game a lot. It'll be fireworks in Detroit. Let's go on to the next game. Could be a lower scoring game because these two defenses looked really good in week one. The 1-0 New Orleans Saints are going to go into Dallas and play the 1-0 Cowboys. Cowboys are 6.5 point home favorites right now. And these are two week one standout teams. Both these teams look dominant in week one. So we'll see how it continues going into week two. uh, I think, the Saints were somewhat of a product of playing the Panthers in week one. The Panthers were abysmal. Bryce Young played some terrible football. Their defense looked just absolutely shambolic. Derek Carr was looking like 2016 Derek Carr, just tossing the rock all over them. So it will be interesting to see them against this really tough Cowboys team. The Cowboys went into Cleveland and just completely shut the doors off of the Browns and made Deshaun Watson see ghosts. And, I'll go into my pick. I think the Cowboys win this game just because of how good they looked against such a good defense last week. I actually picked the Browns and I looked like an idiot because this Cowboys team it's dominant in the regular season. We'll see how it looks in the playoffs again this year, but in the regular season, this Cowboys team is back on track, back on schedule. They're looking good. CD and Dak have that connection. I think CD gets his touchdown this week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same wavelength with you. Like you said, I think the Saints were a product of a terrible Panthers team. Given it is the division games, so you never know how those go, but they ultimately dominated a weaker, lesser opponent. And, I don't feel like that'll be the case with this one. I feel like the Cowboys are the better team. I feel like, this is the humbling game that Derek Carr will get in week two. I think Micah Parsons will be in the backfield early and often, and he will have Derek Carr scared, and that'll ultimately be the X factor of this game, in my opinion, is Micah Parsons, getting Derek Carr scared and curling up in the pocket and chucking it into the ground. So I think that's going to happen a lot, and I think this Dallas defense is going to give this Saints offense an absolute fit. They're going to be blitzing Derek Carr. They're going to get their hands on him. They're going to be hitting him, and ultimately, it's just going to cause him to curl up. But with that being said, I think you can see a lot of checkdowns to Alvin Kamara. So, for Alvin Kamara in fantasy this week, I think you obviously is a must start. I think he's going to be one of the better players of the week. I think he's just going to get 10 to 12 freaking receptions or be targeted that much. So he should be exciting. Chris Olave, you're hoping to see some positive regression. You hope he gets open. Derek Carr will take a few shots to him downfield, and Trevon Diggs can definitely be beat. I feel like the Cowboys defense will have some interceptions, but I feel like you can maybe count on Chris Olave having a little bit of a bounce back week and getting maybe a pretty long reception in this, or Rashid Shaheed. I'm a little bit more questionable on it. I don't think I'm starting him against the Cowboys defense, even though I could see him breaking a long one. but you're just really banking on that huge touchdown. And then obviously from the Cowboys side of things, Jake Ferguson is hurt. I'm not touching any receivers in that offense other than CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you can take a dart throw on a Brandon Cooks or something, but I don't know still how confident I am in that. And then, the running backs are a little bit of a mess. I think you're just hoping for Zeke to fall in the end zone. But with that being said, I think they're just bench plays for me.
Yeah, if you're down bad at running back, I think you can start Zeke and just hope that he falls into the end zone. I think he will a lot this season. I'm not starting Dowdle right now. And you laid out the Kamara or Kamara game plan perfectly. The Cowboys defense is going to be all over Derek Carr, so he's going to be dumping it off so often, like 4 times a drive to Kamara. So definitely expect a big game from Kamara. You laid that out perfectly. Chris Olave, he's going up against a really good secondary again. Not excited about him at all. I'm not excited about Olave really rest of season. Maybe even trade him away, but you do have to start him as of right now. Unless you've got a stacked team, I wouldn't mind benching him because he is coming off a pretty disappointing week. But those are the only 2 guys in the Saints you're thinking about starting, unless you want to start Juwan Johnson as a dart throw, and then the Cowboys. You laid it out perfectly. I don't know about Brandon Cooks this week. I don't mind starting Brandon Cooks most weeks, but Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor actually looked really solid, so they'll be kind of guarding him, and the Saints secondary is actually really solid. This should be a pretty good defensive battle, so I'm not too excited about anyone other than CD in this one. But like you said, you could throw a dart at Zeke, and I think we laid that out pretty well.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, this will be a good. I think the moral of the story is it's going to be a good humbling game for Derek Carr. After he threw up that little three to J.C. Horn. I think you can see the Cowboys secondary throwing up three to him because they're going to have at least 3 picks. And that is my hot take of the week.
Right, we'll get right into the hot take of the week. 3 picks for Derek Carr. Take his over on turnovers, and it's a lock.
100%. Yeah, I will bet against Derek Carr every day of the week.
All right, start the Cowboys defense then. And with that, we'll move on to the next game. The 0-1 Indianapolis Colts are going to go into Green Bay, play the 0-1 Packers. Colts are 3-point road favorites in this one because it's looking like Jordan Love won't play. They haven't officially rolled him out yet. Look for him to be rolled out soon. It is a good sign that he hasn't been ruled out yet because I don't think he'll be put on IR. I don't think he'll miss more than a month, but expect this one to be Malik Willis. And, with that being said, I'm not gonna pick Malik Willis. I think it could be a trap game for the Colts. I think it actually could be a pretty close game. I don't even know if I'd bet on it, but I do think I'm gonna take the Colts to get their first win in this one. They did impress in week 1. Anthony Richardson does some freaky stuff. He makes some crazy, crazy throws. He can, make plays on the ground as well. So he's really fun. I'm looking for AD Mitchell to have a kind of a breakout game in this one. Jair Alexander will be on Michael Pittman mostly, so I do think AD Mitchell, Alec Pierce could have some pretty good games in this one, and I am looking for Anthony Richardson to kind of toss the ball around the Lambeau Field and kind of make some splash throws again. I I'm getting less confident on starting the Colts defense though, because I could just see, I don't know, Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed making some plays. The offense will be ran through them, and it is tough to game plan for a Malik Willis team, as crazy as it sounds when you're, prepared for a Jordan Love team. That's a completely different quarterback, a completely different defensive game plan you do have to go through. So, like I said, could be a trap game, could be a closer game than people think in this one, but I am going to take the Colts in a close, low scoring battle.
Yeah, I think the Colts are going to come in with their hair on fire. I think they're pretty pissed off from last week of losing to a division rival in the Texans. And you know what? DeForest Buckner, you can more. You got enough guys on this defense to really maintain, Malik Willis. And so I'm not too worried about it. I think Malik Willis will ultimately make some boneheaded mistakes as he is still a young quarterback and really not a good quarterback. He is a backup for a reason. But yeah, I ultimately see the Colts defense, which is, historically in the past been really good at getting turnovers. And like you told me, as we were talking last night, you can almost guarantee the Colts defense to score a touchdown. So from a fantasy aspect, if the Colts defense is still available on the waivers, I think they could be a good start. But like you said, it definitely could be a trap game because it is. It is. You plan all offseason for a Jordan Love type quarterback. You have a game plan going into that. And now you got to switch it up because Malik Willis is a totally different quarterback. he is a worse quarterback, but he is a different quarterback. So you don't know what you're going to see. But yeah, from a fantasy aspect, I think you're excited for a Jonathan Taylor bounce back week. He did have 95% of the backfield share in week one. He was the only Colts running back to actually get a handoff. So I think you can see him for some positive regression or progression. I don't think he was terrible last week. He found his way into the end zone, but you're hoping for a little bit better performance on the ground. You're hoping he gets some targets for sure. So we're hoping to see that. I think we'll see some progression this week. And just got to ask you first, how are you feeling on the Colts wide receivers? Are you confident in starting any of them?
You have to start Michael Pittman as of right now. I think you're fine to start him. Monitor it because if he has another bad game, then I would definitely monitor it because we saw Anthony Richardson just wasn't looking to pass in the intermediate game. He was just completely 90 yards downfield or bust. He only completed 9 passes and they were all, just electric, deep downfield play. So if that continues, then a week or two from now, we're gonna be benching Michael Pittman, which is a little bit scary for how high we were taking him. So monitor that. But no, you're starting JT and Michael Pittman as of right now. I'm not telling you guys to start AD Mitchell, but I do just see a good breakout game from him. So definitely, monitor him if he's on your roster. Just look out for a good game from him, or maybe in a really, really deep league, you can throw that dart. And then Anthony Richardson, he's a must start as long as he's healthy. In fantasy, you just have to start him. He's the top 5 quarterback really right now. So those are the starts for the Colts. And then for the Packers, speaking of, receiver questions, are you comfortable starting Jaden Reed? I don't think you're starting Christian Watson for sure, or Dobbs even at this point. It's just really, are you starting Jaden Reed?
Yeah, I am starting Jaden Reed, and it's for the simple fact of he is, kind of that Debo Samuel role. He's going to be taking those end rounds. They're going to scheme him up in a unique way. And he is good, at almost every level of the field when it's short, intermediate, or deep. I think he's going to be the focal point of this offense, even more so than I think Josh Jacobs. Obviously, I think they're going to rely heavily on Josh Jacobs. So obviously, and where you drafted him, you have no other choice but to start Josh Jacobs. But Jaden Reed, I think, is a good play too, because I really think this offense is going to really stay, running through him because he is just such a dynamic playmaker. And I don't know if you ever heard, the interview last year, Matt LaFleur, he just said, we're trying to get this guy involved any possible way we can because he is a war daddy on the field. He does everything at an elite level.
Yeah, and he showed that in week one. He had an electric week. So I'm listening to you, Stores. I'm starting Jaden Reed. I'm scared about it. But I think I do agree with you. He's going to get those manufactured touches. He is just a Debo in this offense. He's going to get the sweeps, the end arounds. He might get some rushes, and he'll get the screens. So Malik Willis shouldn't have too much trouble getting it to him, but I'm not starting any of the other receivers. Josh Jacobs, you do have to start. He'll have a lot of volume in this game as well. So those are really the only 2 starts in this game. If you're in like a 15 or 16 team super flex league, you can maybe start Malik Willis, but that is just because of the rushing. But that is about it in this game. It could be kind of a defensive slugfest in Lambeau. And like you said, you could start the Colts defense. I do foresee a touchdown for them.
100%. Yeah. It's going to be maybe one of the more quiet, boring games of the week, but, the defensive battle should be pretty fun.
Yeah, this one might not be shown on Red Zone too much. But with that being said, let's go on to the next game. The San Francisco 49ers, who are 1-0, are going to go into Minnesota, play the 1-0 Vikings. The Niners are 6-point road favorites coming off just a dominant performance. I think San Francisco covers. I'll get my pick out of the way. I think they win this game handily. I just thought they looked like a perfect team last week on all 3 phases of the football. They looked like such a well-oiled machine, just a great football team, borderline perfect week 1 without Christian McCaffrey, which sounds ridiculous to say. Kyle Shanahan, best coach in the league right now. He's just hot. Play calling is beautiful. This defense honestly, the defense impressed me. I thought they could take a step down with Dre Greenlaw hurt, but they looked just dominant. They looked like they could be the best defense in the NFL. So this 49ers team, I'm high on. I'm excited for them. Apparently, Christian McCaffrey says he's going to play too. I was planning as if he wasn't going to play earlier today, but he said he's going to play. He practiced today. So obviously, you start Christian McCaffrey. And if he doesn't go, Jordan Mason's a top 5 running back to me in fantasy. You have to start him over really just about anyone because I think he's just going into the best offense in the NFL and he's going to be the workhorse bell cow, 28 carries for 150 plus yards. He's just an awesome, awesome player. So I'm just this whole offense is just so good, so many stars. I got the Niners in this one, man.
Yeah, this one's pretty, cut and dry here. It's chalk for me. It is the 49ers as well. This one just comes down to straight talent on a team and obviously coaching. I'm confident in the 49ers team and their coaching to really come in here and give Sam Darnold, as we say all the time, seeing ghosts. I think Sam Darnold might see some ghosts in this one. He was pretty incredible last week. I thought he had a great game against the Giants. He started it out 10 for 10 with a touchdown. So that was pretty impressive. That was pretty cool to see. And I do think, Kevin O'Connell, will obviously help Sam Darnold perform a little bit better. But ultimately, this San Francisco team is just too good. This is already a team, that's a playoff lock, in my opinion. And they'll come in here and they'll handle the Vikings with ease. And, for a fantasy aspect in this one, you start Justin Jefferson, excuse me. Of course, he's going to get his. And then really Aaron Jones, and you're hoping he falls into the end zone. That's kind of what you're banking on. No one else in this Vikings offense do I feel comfortable enough starting or even looking at. Jordan Addison's obviously hurt. Is Jordan Addison gone on IR or is he just going to be questionable for the next week or so?
Yeah, he hasn't even been ruled out yet. So I'm not starting Jordan Addison at all. I would expect him to be ruled out for this one, but I don't think it'll be too long.
Okay, yeah. And then obviously, like you said, you pointed out, obviously you start whatever 49ers running back, Debo, Ayuk. I think Ayuk's going to have a positive regression in this game. I think last week, I think the lack of practice, the holdout did affect him. I don't think he was in full speed. Hopefully he's up to the conditioning. Hopefully he's feeling a little bit better. And then obviously George Kittle.
Yeah, and if McCaffrey doesn't go, you push all the receivers up, including Kittle. You push them all up, and then yeah, you're starting all of them. Like you said, Ayuk was guarded by Sauce. He had the holdout. We kind of knew he would have a really underwhelming game, and that played out. So you know what you're doing for the 49ers. You're starting either running back and then every single star. And for the Vikings, you mentioned it perfectly. I do want to just shout out like Sam Darnold was the second highest graded quarterback in PFF last week. Aaron Jones was the first highest graded running back in the NFL last week. So this team really did ball. Sam Darnold played damn near a perfect game. So respect to him. If you're in a super flex league, I am rostering Sam Darnold, maybe even starting him even in this tough matchup. I think he will be a pretty solid option, and he does scoot a little bit, so you can get some rushing out of him. And then yeah, Justin Jefferson, the consolidated target will just target share will be insane with him. They're going to target him every single play. He's like a top 3 receiver this week. Without Jordan Addison, he's going to be a huge focal point for this offense. But I think that's about it for fantasy.
100%, yeah. And it should be, as sad as that sounds, it should just be, a pretty easy game for the 49ers. Like I said, from the talent aspect, but no game is ever guaranteed in the NFL. But if we are betting men, which we are placing our bets on the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, that team just looks so dominant. They look literally damn near perfect. That 49ers team is beautiful. They're well oiled and they have the steam. They're hot. But let's go on to the next game. The team that just lost to the Niners, the 0-1 New York Jets, are going to go into Tennessee and play the 0-1 Titans. The Jets are 3.5 point road favorites in this one. The Titans are coming off a rough performance, man. Will Levis with 32.8 PFF grade surprisingly wasn't the worst quarterback PFF grade of the week, but man, it was a rough performance for the Titans. I will say their defense impressed me. I think their defense could be a tough out. I think that's a reason the Bears look so bad. I think the Bears will actually improve this week just because the Titans defense is a little bit underrated right now. But that being said, on the other side, I do think the Jets impressed me in that loss. I think Aaron Rodgers' arm impressed me. His mobility was terrible. He looked like he couldn't even move, but his arm did impress me, unlike Kirk Cousins, who, didn't impress in either aspect of the football game. He just looked completely cooked. So I do have some optimism for the Jets with how good this roster is. You could easily make an argument it's the best roster in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers had a pretty fun connection with Garrett Wilson. They kind of went away from it for some reason because the game got a little bit out of hand. That 49ers team, like I said, just looked perfect. But I am somewhat optimistic watching the Jets in that one. I do think Aaron Rodgers could have a pretty solid season and really, have a great connection with Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. And one thing going into fantasy that's really positive is this offense was literally Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Allen Lazard. There was three players that touched the ball on offense until Tyrod Taylor came in. So that is something very positive in fantasy. The consolidated targets will just be beautiful with those three. So you do want to start those three, honestly. And then, yeah, I'll get my pick out of the way. I'm talking high on the Jets. I was pretty impressed by Aaron Rodgers and the Jets in that loss. I'm going to take them to win at, you know, in Tennessee on the road, cover the 3.5 point road spread. And I do think this team could be pretty slept on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, at the beginning of the game for the Titans, they actually looked really good. I thought the offense was rolling. I thought all phases of the game were really clicking. And it was funny. Brian Callahan said in his post game conferences, at that point we should just kick the ball or punted the ball in 1st and 10 every time. We would have won the game because our defense was playing that great. We could have just shut Caleb Williams out. We could have probably had a better chance of scoring on defense than offense. But I don't know what happened, man. I mean, Will Levis just went to absolute garbage. The receivers weren't getting any separation. It's just like nothing could go right. And when Will Levis had that play where he rolled out and it was a must get 3rd and 6, and he just flips the ball to Tyreek Stevenson, and then Tyreek Stevenson just house calls it. It was just like, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? It's just like what you can't. I mean, it was a must get, conversion, but I mean, when you're staring right at a defender and you just hand him the ball to go score, that's worse. Just take the sack. But yeah, I mean, the Titans literally were dominating this game. They were up 17-0. And I mean, they were giving Caleb Williams a fit. It was a welcome to the NFL. I mean, Caleb Williams had 98 yards, and this is a team, Bears team that we hyped up being one of the best teams on roster. There's really no weaknesses, but this Titans defense made that offense irrelevant. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a hard fought battle for the Jets. But however, I do have the Jets because I think, they do have the more well rounded team. I think they have the better team. But, Jeffrey Simmons and, that Titans defense is going to give Aaron Rodgers some fits. I could see Brees Hall being a little bit bottled up on the ground, but I think, from a fantasy aspect through the air, I'm really excited for Brees Hall, his involvement in the screens, his involvement in the pass, and Garrett Wilson. I think there's just a really good connection there with Aaron Rodgers. So, like you said, from a fantasy aspect, those guys are just awesome. Alan Lazard had himself a hell of a game. I think he's the borderline flex play, but I am hesitant because it is week one. And is this week one Sammy Watkins we're talking about, where he goes for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns every week one and then disappears the rest of the season? Maybe. But, depending on how deep your league is or, how many players are in your league, how many teams, maybe Alan Lazard is a borderline flex play for you because him and Aaron Rodgers do have that connection. And then on the Titans side of the ball, good to get some clarity. I wish we would have had it before the season started, but Tony Pollard is the running back one. He's pretty exciting. And then other than that, I think I'm just starting Calvin Ridley. And DeAndre Hopkins was pretty much irrelevant. I mean, Chig Okonkwo, found his way into the end zone, which was pretty nice, but I don't know if I really have the balls to start anyone other than Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley in this offense.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. I think we both predicted that Tony Pollard would be the guy in this offense. He would be the better running back to draft. So yeah, you are starting him and in riding that hot hand. He had a pretty solid week. You're starting Calvin Ridley, but not excited about it against Sauce Gardner and this Jets defense. You're not excited about any of these Titans offensive options in fantasy. DeAndre Hopkins, maybe he'll get more implemented, a little bit healthier in this one, but you're not starting him. That's for sure. And then for the Jets, you summed it up perfectly. I actually would start Allen Lazard in a 2 flex league just because he has that connection with Aaron Rodgers. I think you can start. I just think he's a good option right now. You're riding the flames, and then if Mike Williams gets more implemented, then you can bench him. But I do think there's something there with the consolidated targets. The offense was literally just him, Brees, and Garrett, who you're obviously starting. And I would actually take Garrett and Brees's overs as well in Underdog just because of the consolidated targets. They're going to be the whole offense. So I love the Jets this week. I love the Jets rest of season. I'm actually high on them rest of season. I think they can do some fun things, maybe even win the AFC East. Anything else you want to say in this game?
No, no, it is. It will be a fun, Jets offense versus Titans defense battle. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. This will actually be a underratedly good game with two really, really good defenses. Moving on to the next game, the 1-0 LA Chargers are going to go into Carolina, play the 0-1 Panthers. The Chargers are 6-point road favorites in this one, coming off a fun performance, coming off a almost complete performance. The defense looked solid. The pass rush looked awesome for the Chargers, and then they got that run game going. J.K. Dobbins had a big week, look explosive on the ground. So you're really excited about that. You're definitely starting J.K. Dobbins in a two flex league, and he could be a borderline RB2 play, especially with no Derek Brown on this Panthers defense. Unfortunately, I think the Chargers are just going to be running the ball all day in this one.
Yeah, I think this one again is going to be one up front in the trenches. I think this is going to be a little bit of a bully type of football where it's going to be we're just going to run you over. Our pass rush is going to get home. So this game will be one. I honestly don't project, the Chargers to blow them out like the Saints did. But obviously, I'm speaking probably for both of us. We're taking the Chargers in this one. We're taking the Chargers defense. I don't think it'll be a super high scoring game, but I think the Chargers will wear down the Panthers. I think they'll smack them right in the mouth. It's going to be a fist fight. And, I think pretty handily they should take care of the Panthers. Look for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack to each get themselves a sack. Look for Bryce Young to throw a pick. But, I could see, one Panthers receiver. I don't know who it's going to be, from a fantasy aspect. I could see somebody having a decent game because, the Chargers secondary is not the greatest. And so I feel like this could be a game where Xavier Legette or somebody, gets, breaks free and does score, a long one. But I mean, I don't know. Jesse Minter was playing a lot of soft cover too with Derwin James and Alohi Gilman, who Alohi Gilman did not practice this week, so that is something to monitor there. Or he hasn't practiced this week so far. Excuse me. He left last game with a knee injury a little bit early. But I don't know. I just have this feeling that you could see one Panthers receiver actually doing fairly good. Maybe that's Adam Thielen. Maybe it's Deontay Johnson. Maybe it's Xavier Legette. However, I'm not starting any of them because I don't know who that one player is going to be who breaks out for the long touchdown because it's just inevitable that it probably will happen. But I do think other than that one long touchdown, the Chargers defense should take care of business. They will get home. Hopefully, they'll create a bunch of turnovers, and their defense should be a must start in fantasy this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say you stole what I was gonna say because I agree there could be a receiver that goes off in this game for the Panthers, but I'm not gonna start one and predict who it is because there's too many of them, too much to go around, and too little of offensive volume at the end of the day to go around. So if you're a Deontay Johnson owner, I hate to say it, but I am not starting him unless you're like insanely down bad. But I would look to start like a Demarcus Robinson or even a Tyler Johnson over Deontay Johnson until he proves that he's their focal point in this offense. I'm not starting anyone on this Panthers team. Like you said, I'm definitely starting the Chargers defense. I literally went to grab them in every single league I'm in just because this is a great matchup. Bryce Young I love Bryce Young, but he showed last week that this is an offense that you want to target with the fantasy defenses. So I do agree. Chargers defense is a smash play. I think obviously J.K. Dobbins, like I said, he's a good start unless you have a completely stacked running back room. Like in our co-manager league, we kind of can't even start him because we have Jerome Ford, Jonathan Taylor, and Jameer Gibbs. So it is hard to start him. But if we had a normal running back room, he's obviously going to be starting in a two flex league. So definitely, look to start him in this easy matchup. I think he could have another long run, definitely get into the end zone. Not starting Gus Edwards. I do think I would start Lad McConkey in a two flex league, if not now, really soon. But I think he's definitely the number one guy in this offense, and he's got a good connection with Herbert already. I think I'm just starting him with this easy, soft matchup. I'm starting Lad.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, from the offensive weapons, yeah, I think we're going to, as offensive coordinator Gus, or sorry, not Gus, Greg Roman, excuse me, said, we're going to be riding with the hot hand with the running back. And, it looked like J.K. Dobbins just had that little bit of an extra burst. Gus Edwards just really didn't get it going last week. I mean, I could see Gus Edwards maybe falling into the end zone if they get to the 1-2 yard line. But however, J.K. Dobbins just looked like the fresher, better running back. So I really am riding with him. I think Gus Edwards is a risky play. You're just hoping for him to fall in the end zone, kind of like an Ezekiel Elliott. But this offense should run through J.K. Dobbins. He looks like the better, the more refreshed running back. And then yeah, Lad McConkey, first game, he led the team in targets. He got into the end zone. He has that connection already with Justin Herbert. So, I'm not really starting anyone outside of him. I think Josh Palmer, could have a better game this week. I think he probably will. But however, with how this Chargers team looks like they're going to be, handling the offense, it's a run first, to open up the pass, and not one receiver had over 40 yards. And if I'm banking on a guy to get a touchdown, it looks like Lad McConkey is going to be that guy. So I think it is Lad McConkey, and then depending on how desperate you are, you could throw a dart at Josh Palmer.
Yep, I think we summed up fantasy perfectly. Just starting those two players on the Chargers, 0 on the Panthers, and then that Chargers defense. And then yeah, you already said it for me, but I am picking the Chargers obviously in this game. I'm picking them to even. I don't know. This could be just a low scoring game, so I don't know if they cover that big line. But the Chargers will win this football game 100%. Moving on to the next game, an AFC West team that just lost to the Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 0-1, are going to go into Baltimore, play the Ravens, who just lost to the Chiefs, 0-1. The Ravens are 9-point home favorites in this one, a really big line in this one. And I think it could even be too small. I'll get my pick right out of the way. I think the Ravens have a snot pounding in this game. I think they really just click in this game. I think they put up a lot of points, like a 37-13 type of score line here. I'm really just smashing the Ravens in this one. I think they get the over. And I am just excited about this Ravens team coming off a loss. I think they're going to be pissed off. I thought Lamar Jackson played a respectable game. He played his heart out against that Chiefs team, played right to literally the last play. So I think this Ravens team will be pissed off, and they'll play pissed off, and they'll dominate this Raiders team. And I really like what I saw from Lamar, like I said. So look for that Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews split. It'll be interesting to monitor. I think at this point, Isaiah Likely is more of a receiver. He was getting those bubble screens and those receiver routes thrown to him, so definitely wouldn't mind starting him even in the flex in a deeper league. I wouldn't mind him, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ravens in a high scoring, just dominant matchup on this one.
Yeah, I think this, kind of like the Chargers and the Raiders last week. This is two heavyweights, going at it. Another fist fight type of a game. I'm taking the odds for a fight in this game. I think 100%. These two teams are going to get mad, and whoever's losing is going to get really mad. I could see Jack Jones throwing more punches. I think this might be a game where he ends up getting himself a suspension. I cannot believe he didn't get suspended last game. I cannot believe Max Crosby didn't get suspended last game. I don't know if you watched Max Crosby, come in after pull Quentin Johnston's hair and drag him to the ground. Then Christian Wilkins body slams Will Dissly, and then Jack Jones had thrown 3 or 4 punches throughout the game at Josh Palmer, and somehow no one got any fines or suspensions. Obviously, the Chargers retaliated, and as Josh Palmer said in an interview, he goes, us receivers were getting punched. They were literally throwing punches. And he said, we got to defend ourselves at some point. So finally, at the end of the game, they had enough and the fight broke out. Josh Palmer and Jack Jones both get escorted out of the game early. But I could see a fight. So if there's overs, if there's a line where you can take a fight in this game, I think you got two pissed off teams that don't want to be 0-1, smash mouth. It's another Harbaugh versus Antonio Pierce type of game. And there's going to be a fight, but ultimately the Ravens are the better team. They will. They're gonna. I think, like you said, I think they're gonna squish the Raiders like some ants, and I think Lamar Jackson's gonna go crazy. I think this whole Ravens team is gonna go nuts. So I'm taking the overs on the Ravens line. I think at 9 is a big over, but I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna lay into the Raiders.
Yeah, I think they cover as well. I foresee a dominant performance at home here in the home opener. Going into fantasy for the Raiders, we'll get the Raiders real quick out of the way. You're starting Bowers. He is honestly one of the top 5, top 10 tight end options right now. He's coming off a fun week, a lot of volume. They definitely implemented him well into that offense. That's really about it. If you really want to throw a dart throw at a running back on this team, I'm starting Alexander Madison over Zamir White. I'm one of the few people ranking him over Zamir White. I'm just taking the receiving volume. He had a nice receiving touchdown against the Chargers. I'm starting Alexander Madison if I need to, but I'm not looking for it. I'd rather just have him on my bench. But moving on to the Ravens, I think Isaiah Likely is a top 10 tight end. I would start Mark Andrews, but you just got to monitor it because if he has a bad week this week against the Raiders, then that's when you get into really, really scary territory. Hopefully, he looks a little bit healthier in this one, though. Obviously, you're starting Zay Flowers. He had a lot of volume. They were all really close to the line of scrimmage, so all of his catches didn't really go for too many yards, didn't have too great of a fantasy performance. But if he would have, connected with Lamar at the end of the game, got that touchdown, he would have had a great performance. I could totally see him having a long touchdown in this one. So starting Zay, starting the two tight ends, obviously starting Derrick Henry. I think this will be a much more favorable game script for Henry. I think he'll have a much better game. He could honestly wear out this Raiders run defense. And I think the Ravens are just dominant. I'm starting all their stars.
Yeah, you summed that up perfectly. I really couldn't add anything better to that, and I'm excited, to talk about this next dogfight.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just mentioned a dogfight, so let's go into the next game because this could also be a. I literally have it in my notes. It's gonna be a dogfight. It's gonna be a defensive close battle. Could be a fight in this one as well. It's gonna be a close one. The Seahawks have to travel across the country. The 1-0 Seahawks are gonna go into New England, play the 1-0 Patriots. The Seahawks are 3.5 point road favorites in this one. And this could be a little bit of a sneaky game. This is two really solid defenses. This could be a defensive battle, low scoring. Patriots are coming off a very surprising win, shocking the world, beating the Bengals in Cincinnati. Like I said, the Seahawks have to travel across the country. This could be a sneaky game. I'm not betting on it. I think it'll be a pretty close one here. It'll be a definite fun one to watch. That being said, I will take the Seahawks. I was impressed with their defense overall. I think that defense is really solid. That pass rush is awesome. Boye Mafe got going. Devon Witherspoon truly looks like one of the best corners in the game. He's so smart. He's just so fast on, seeing a play and just breaking on it. He's an awesome, awesome corner. Going to the other side, speaking of awesome corners, Jonathan Jones and Christian Gonzalez are both just complete superstar corners. So I could totally see DK Metcalf getting shut down for the second game in a row here. And so I'm a little bit scared about DK Metcalf in fantasy. I was saying I was scared last week against Sertan, and I'm the same amount of scared this week against this really solid Patriots secondary. So look out for that. I think Lockett could be the beneficiary again, who had a pretty solid week last week. I think he could, be the difference in this game like he was last week, and Lockett could win the game for this team. And in the end, in a close game, Kenneth Walker is still a game time decision. He hasn't practiced yet. He said he was fine after the game last week. So this should be a Kenneth Walker game that he plays and plays really, really well. I have the two running backs on the graphic here because I think Ramondre picks up on the steam that he had last game. He was dominant against the Bengals run defense. So I expect the running backs to be the stars of the show in this one. So I'll pick the Seahawks in a close battle. I was impressed with the resilience of that Seahawks team. I think Gino will ultimately be the better quarterback in this one. There's just a little bit better weapons for the Seahawks team, and Kenneth Walker looked just completely awesome. If he somehow doesn't go, Zach Charbonnet will be awesome too. I think he's a good back, and he'll be a great play in fantasy too.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. This is really, me and you've been on the exact same level the entire time, and we're gonna stay on that level because I'm not gonna not pick the Seahawks in this one too. But this is two, first time head coaches going against each other with good defenses, with good running backs. But however, I give that edge to the Seahawks because I just feel like this is a little bit better built roster. You've got the veteran quarterback, obviously. I mean, you both have veteran quarterbacks, but I think Geno Smith gets the edge over Jacoby Brissett. And obviously, you've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, versus your Pop Douglas, versus your Tyquan Thornton. So there is quite, a skill gap between there, which I ultimately think will give the Seahawks, the win in this one. But however, this could be a trap game. I mean, these, I think the Patriots played more impressive than the Seahawks did last week. I would expect the Seahawks to go in there and roll over, rookie Bo Nix. But they didn't, they had, it was a hard fought battle. They didn't beat them by as much as I expected. Meanwhile, the Patriots come out of nowhere, beat the Bengals, and make Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase look like scared little girls. Um, and Ramondre Stevenson just absolutely put it to that defense. So it's gonna be close. I'm scared on even betting on this one, But however, I do feel like the talent of the Seahawks will just overwhelm the Patriots a little bit more. But like you said, start both of these running backs, man. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be run the ball downhill, hit that A gap, and these guys are bruisers, man. So, look for a big game, look for 100 plus yards for maybe both running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. The running backs will be the star of the show in this one, and that should translate to fantasy. You're starting both the running backs. If Walker somehow doesn't go, you're starting Charbonnet, and then DK Metcalf you have to start, but you're not really excited about it in this matchup at all. If you have really good receiver options, I could look to bench him in this matchup. Specifically, Tyler Lockett, I'm not really looking to start because of how deep this Patriots corner room is. There's just so many good corners to go around in the secondary, and I think that's about it. I would start the Seahawks defense. I think that's acceptable, but it could disappoint you because the Bengals defense kind of disappointed last week against the Patriots. So look out for that one. But I think we covered this game pretty well. Let's go on to the last morning game of Sunday. The New York Giants, who are 0-1, are going to go into Washington, play the 0-1 Commanders. Commanders are 1.5 point home favorites. Both teams, aren't coming off the most impressive of games. This is a AFC East, or sorry, NFC East, kind of a shit fest matchup. This will be my shit fest of the week. I'll lock that in right now. This could easily go either way. Don't bet on this one at all. That being said, I will take the Commanders in a squeaker here at home. I do think that they're just a little bit better of a team. I think Jaden Daniels brings a little bit more at the quarterback position than Daniel Jones at this point. I think he's going to be safer with the football, less turnovers to go around. So I do think I'm going to take the Commanders in this one. Not confident at all. Could easily go either way. But I do think Jaden Daniels will do some fun things on the ground. Speaking of Jaden Daniels, kind of fun. Him versus Malik Neighbors in this one, the LSU top 5 pick matchup here. But yeah, I got to go the Commanders in a pretty boring game.
Surely we'll disagree on one. It's not going to be here though. Again, I will take the Commanders
Too many
as
locks.
well. It's too many locks of this one, So for that, as we used to say last year, I don't even know what was the saying we used to say last year on these when we'd pick all the same ones. I can't remember. There's a saying we do.
I don't know, just lock of the weeks.
No, 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 no. It was. I remember. It was. All right. You don't even need to watch the game because we
uh,
both agree on it. It's too much of a lock. You don't even need to turn on your TV. So apparently you don't even need to watch the first half of football or the first 12 games.
yeah, just don't
Because
watch Red Zone.
yeah. I mean, you can just have fun, watch your fantasy. There's no games that you actually need to actually watch. So far, because they're all locks.
Yeah.
But yes, I will go with the Commanders. I'm on the same wavelength as you today. And yeah, I mean, to me, it just simply comes down to I trust rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels to outperform Daniel Jones. And I just think, the Commanders are a little bit better of a team. But ultimately, I'm not picking on two quarterbacks to win games until I see something. And those two quarterbacks are Daniel Jones and Bryce Young right now. Those guys are my shit fest quarterbacks. Those guys are on my shit list. They absolutely embarrassed me. They made me mad. They made me pissed off last week, even looking at them playing the position of quarterback. And they just disrespected the position of quarterback last week. So I need to see better. And however, Jaden Daniels, we'll just get into fantasy because this is shit fest. Jaden Daniels is a must start every week. You saw what he was able to do on the ground, 16 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's must start every single week just because of the rushing upside. And then, from another side, Brian Robinson Jr. was able to find his way into the end zone. So I think this Commanders run game is rolling. Terry McLaurin and any receiver on this offense does scare me. I think you got to start Terry. You're just hoping for that breakout game to be this week, or just hoping for them to get on, to start clicking this week. No one else on that team. I'm starting. Austin Ekeler is interesting, depending on how much you're struggling at running back, just because he looks to be the guy to get those, that third down running back looking to just get PPR points. In a non PPR league, you'd never start him ever. And then on the Giants, you're just hoping Neighbors does anything. You're hoping Daniel Jones can just get him enough targets to make him fantasy relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling you guys all offseason to take Jaden Daniels. His ADP was way too low, and he's already worked himself into a top 5, top 10 quarterback play. He's a must start, like you said. So he was a great pick. If you got him, you got to start him. Brian Robinson's a must start for me. I think he's a very solid RB2 flex option. I'm not starting Eckler personally. I'm not really counting on the dump offs. He could have a lot of dump offs in this game. It could be a pretty high scoring game actually in this one, just because both defenses are pretty abysmal. And like you said, you got to start Terry McLaurin and just hope that he gets into the end zone, hope he gets more involved. If he doesn't have a good game in this one, then I am benching him really until he proves it. And then yeah, for the Giants, it's just Malik Neighbors. He's going to be a good play. The upside is a little bit capped unless he falls into the end zone. But how often is he going to fall into the end zone? And this offense is the only problem. And he is the only start for me for the Giants, like you said. This will be a pretty high scoring game though, so you can target those players.
Shit fest of the week.
Shit fest of the week. Move on to the next game, which is actually a very, very fun game. I already feel less gross and dirty and nasty after talking about that last game. Going into our afternoon slate, the 0-1 LA Rams are going to go into Arizona, play the 0-1 Cardinals. Big NFC West matchup here. The Cardinals are 1 point home favorites in this one, which is a little bit surprising to me. Both teams coming off a loss, but that Rams team just really impressed me in Detroit. They were really resilient. Matthew Stafford is still picking up where he left off, and he still looks like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I'll get my pick right out of the way. I'm going to go with the dogs here, the road dogs. I'm going to take the LA Rams to win this game in Arizona. I think I'm going to throw some money on it too. I'm pretty confident in this Rams team. I just absolutely love what I'm seeing from Matthew Stafford. He's going to hyper target Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp has himself a game. Take all of his overs. He's a top 3 fantasy receiver right now. So he was the still of fantasy football. He could be the league winner. I could totally see him finishing as the wide receiver 1 at the end of the year. That's how good he's going to be and how hyper targeted he's going to be. So give me the Rams in this one. They really impressed me. I thought their defense even impressed me. Trading away Ernest Jones, I thought it would be bad, but they looked pretty solid against the Lions. So I'm going to take the Rams. The Cardinals looked solid as well against the Bills. It was a fun game. Kyler looked solid, but the way that they ended kind of soured on me, and I'm going to go with the Rams.
You're not going to be the only one taking the dogs. You're not the lone wolf in this again. So don't even turn on your TVs, Sunday, because everything is a lock. I'm going with the dogs in this one too. And like you said, from what I saw, from the Monday night game to the Bills and the Cardinals game, there was a difference. I mean, the Cardinals started off, don't get me wrong, really hot. They looked really solid. They looked like they were going to handle business. And then there was just a complete collapse. The Kyler Murray comments today really scared me. I didn't think he handled that very well when asked about Marvin Harrison Jr. And then I just, from a Marvin Harrison Jr. standpoint, I thought there was a little bit of lack of effort on routes. I thought there's some questionable, kind of like, I said with AD Mitchell going to the draft, it felt like a little bit of lack of effort, and maybe that's just because he knew he wasn't that involved. It looked like he was just out there kind of distraught in this first game, just because maybe he wasn't part of the game plan like he's used to be, like he's used to be, been doing since college, since really is, that Rose Bowl game against Utah, but yeah, I'm just more impressed with the Rams. I'm more impressed with Matthew Stafford, and more impressed with defense. I feel more confident in Sean McVay over Jonathan Gannon. So yeah, I'm going with the dogs too. You're not the lone wolf on this. You don't have to do the Rich Eisen Hal with that little have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
When they do their pickums, we got to do that. We got to do that. But yeah, you're not going to be the lone wolf on this one. I'm picking the Rams, and give me Cooper Kupp over 20 targets.
I don't know if we've ever done this before. This is getting a little bit ridiculous. We're literally going to pick every single game the exact same, except for I think we have a different one coming up here in a few games. But yeah, the Rams are going to be really fun. I do just see them covering the spread. I'm going to bet on them. I just think they have a really good game and get their first win of the season in a big matchup. I think Kyron Williams has a huge game going into fantasy. Obviously, you're starting Kyron. I would maybe even start Matthew Stafford just because this game is going to be high scoring. Definitely you're starting Cooper Kupp. He's that dude right now. I could even start Demarcus Robinson if you don't really have a great second flex in a 2 flex league. I wouldn't mind starting Demarcus Robinson. I like him a lot. And then going on to the Cardinals, obviously you're starting Trey McBride. I actually really liked his usage in week 1, and I think he's going to have a really good week. You're starting Marvin Harrison Jr. with a blindfold. You're turning the TV off and not watching it and just praying that he does good. And then you obviously got to start Kyler with that rushing ability. Could totally see him getting a rushing touchdown in this one. And I think that is about it here.
Yeah, I'm scared with Marvin Harrison Jr. I can't lie, but maybe this is a good sign that they're talking about it. So I think they're going to have to force feed him. And, when Kyler Murray said, I'm not going to force any targets to him. Yeah, you are. You are. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. You're gonna have to. That guy is the dog. He's one of the most incredible wide receiver prospects we've ever seen. Come out of college. I think he's the best one we actually have ever seen. I've never seen a better wide receiver prospect in my 24 years of life than Marvin Harrison Jr. So he's too good to not be good, and so hopefully this is the week where he gets back on track. Hopefully, it was just a week one jitters type of thing, and hopefully we're seeing the 80 yards and a touchdown from Marvin Harrison Jr. that we expected last week.
Yeah,
So
obviously.
obviously you start him, you put a blind on, yeah, you pray, but it's I am scared. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm not scared about him because I got a lot of stock in Marvin Harrison Jr. Me and you drafted him our co-manager league high, so we gotta stay positive and hope for Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, obviously you're not worried about him rest of season. I would even say if you have any casual league mates that have him, I would totally try to trade for him if anyone's stupid enough to do it. But yeah, I'm not worried about him rest of season. Just got to hope that this is a game he start turning it on, gets those targets because once he does, he's going to be immaculate. Let's go on to the next game, possibly the game of the week here. Just look at this beautiful, beautiful matchup. These games are always electric. The Bengals seem to be the Chiefs' kryptonite. The Cincinnati Bengals, who are 0-1 coming off that bad loss, are going in to Kansas City, who are 1-0 coming off a great win in the season opener. The Chiefs are 5-point favorites in this one. It's going to be a fun battle, going to be a fun offensive battle. Take all the overs in this one, target this game in fantasy and betting. I'll get my pick right out of the way in this one as well. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm not liking the vibes with the Bengals. I didn't like their defense, their run defense, their tackling, the effort. It's just kind of weird vibes. It kind of scares me right now with the Bengals. Not sure if T. Higgins goes in this one. I would say he's 50-50 to go in this one with the hamstring. So I wouldn't plan on starting him. I would just go for a different option in this specific week. If he does, if it's announced that he's playing like before, Saturday, I would be fine starting him because I think he's a great option. I would even, trade for him as a trade for target. But the vibes are just a little bit off for me for the Bengals. I don't like what I saw from that defense. I think Isaiah Pacheco could have a big game on the ground. And we know how the Chiefs are in these big games at home. Early season, I'm gonna take the Chiefs to just be the Chiefs like they looked against the Ravens and just, take care of business like they always do. Not even really much analysis needed for this. It's just they're the Chiefs. I gotta take them, man. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not betting against the Chiefs until proven otherwise, until I see any kind of concern, which obviously it's week one and we didn't see anything last week. So, yeah, I will be riding with the Chiefs as well. I have to ask you, though, on the Bengals side of things, does Joe Burrow's wrist and those videos concern you, that he's just not healthy?
I'm not too concerned. I mean, he was just dumping it down, checking it down. It wasn't like him at all. It was a little bit odd, but when he had to turn it on, he really did start to turn it on. He started targeting Jamar Chase more at the end of the game, and he was, pushing it downfield a little bit more. I'm not worried about it. If he goes out of a game, then I'll definitely be worried about it. But for now, I think, he'll be fine. I think it'll be a fun, high scoring battle. I'm not worried about Joe, his health for now, but I do just think the Chiefs are going to outlast him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I saw a lot of those videos surfacing, him trying to pick up the water bottle and everything. Maybe it's just an excuse. Maybe he's just playing it off, because he was embarrassed about the loss. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not betting on the Chiefs in this one, or sorry, excuse me, the Bengals in this one. But yeah, from the fantasy aspect, be happy if you drafted Rasheed Rice, man, because that guy is going to be a dog every single week. I think he is the number one target. I think he's taken that over from Travis Kelce moving forward. So be happy about him. Isaiah Pacheco. Obviously, if you have Travis Kelce, he's still going to be a top five, top two tight end in the NFL because he's just going to get his eventually. He's going to find his way into the end zone. Um, like we said, in our previous previews, you start Now, I blank his name, of course. Um, the wide receiver, best.
Oh, Xavier Worthy.
It's getting late, man. I'm a little tired. It was a long day at work
I was
today.
like, what team?
Yes, it's getting sorry. Excuse my brain today. It's little fried. But yes, Xavier Worthy. You're banking on a big play. You're banking on you're banking on him just to get loose. But like I said in the previous preview, I think you can expect that. I think you have Andy Reid as a coach, and I think you can expect him to dial something up for Xavier Worthy to have a big play every game. So, in a two flex league, I think he is definitely startable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not even really saying he's a must start in fantasy yet with only 3 targets in week 1, but he scored on 2 of them. In this specific matchup, it's going to be high scoring. I am starting Xavier Worthy in a 2 flex league as well. Obviously, you're starting Rashee Rice. He's the top 12, 15 receiver option. He was my wide receiver 15 in my pre-draft fantasy rankings. So that aged beautifully. Honestly, anyone that first saw him not getting suspended knew he was going to be a great option. He's just a complete target machine. He's literally Michael Thomas, Slant Boy 2.0, rejuvenated. He's going to be just a PPR cheat code. You're starting Mahomes and Kelsey. Hopefully, they can kind of step it up in the specific matchup. It'll be a lot more high scoring. I think that's about it for the Chiefs. Hollywood Brown might play, which could muddy some things up. I'm not starting Hollywood, though. For the Bengals, you're starting Joe Burrow. You're starting Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, if you know he's playing in advance, not if it's announced right before the game. I'm just staying away from that. And I think that's it. Oh, Zach Moss as well. I'm definitely starting Zach Moss. I think he
Yep.
could be a really fun option. A little bit scared of Chris Jones this week specifically, but rest of season, smashing. Zach Moss, I think he could be a trade for target. And I do think I would still start him in this high scoring matchup. I think he could fall into the end zone again.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move on to your Broncos, Dan. I'm excited to hear your take on this one.
Yeah. So we picked the exact same on every single game this whole entire week, which is just stupid. It's crazy. It's never happened before. But we'll go into this game. I think things could change here. I might just change my pick for that. The 1-0 Pittsburgh Steelers are going into Denver playing the 0-1 Broncos. Pittsburgh is 2.5 point road favorites in this one. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be a low scoring battle. Justin Fields versus Bo Nix in a second game. That being said,
Ride
I'll
with
go
your
with the
boys.
Broncos.
There you go. There you
I know
go.
that we need a split here. We need at least one game to decipher our week 2 records here. So I'm going to go with the Broncos. Getting the ball out quick is how you beat the Steelers. It's how you beat this insane pass rush. JJ or TJ Watt was the #1 graded pass rusher in PFF last week with a 95.3 grade. Cameron Hayward with the 89.4 grade. Two scary, scary pass rushers. I do think the only way to beat this team is getting the ball out quick. I think Bo Nix will look to get it out really quick like he did against the Seahawks defense. So I will go with the Broncos. I think their offense bounces back just a little bit at home. They should be a little bit more comfortable. Nix in his second career game instead of his first. I'll go with the Broncos just because it's going to be a close defensive, low scoring battle at home. When it really comes down to it, the Steelers' weapon on offense is George Pickens. Patrick Surtain will be shadowing him. I think he'll very much be limited like he was limiting DK Metcalf last week. So when George Pickens is taken out of a play, you've got what, Van Jefferson, and that's no one. You got no one to really, provide points for you. They didn't score a touchdown last week. I think there's going to be a lot of Chris Boswell again in this one. It really will come down to that Steelers run game. Najee Harris, Justin Fields, look for them to have a great game on the ground. That could be the difference in this game. But I'm going to pick the Broncos at home.
I like it. Ride with your boys. Yes, this will be the one game you need to watch this week because we are splitting on this one. So this will be the one that determines everything. So I will be going with the Steelers, and it's for one reason and one reason only. TJ Watt. What he did to Kirk Cousins last week and almost, ended his career there and just, absolutely humiliated the Falcons and went in there and upset them. Yeah, the Steelers defense is good, man, and they scare the hell out of me. Their defensive line is incredible. Obviously, they've got some talent in the backfield with Mika Fitzpatrick as well, in that secondary. And so, yeah, I don't expect the Steelers deep or offense, excuse me, to do too much. I think the Broncos will keep them pretty much under control. But however, the reason I am riding with the Steelers, I think field possession is going to be good. I think we could see another, absolute 5 field goal game from Chris Boswell because TJ Watt's going to be getting in this. I mean, they're going to play the field possession, they're going to play the punts, they're just going to be playing this type of game. You know, I think this is two pretty good defenses going against each other. And it's ultimately going to come down to field possession and where you're playing and time of possession and everything and you know which end of the field you're playing. I mean, if you're whoever's getting the better field possession, I think is going to win this game. I think that is going to be huge. I think whoever gets the most sacks, you know, whoever can create the most uncomfortable situations for the other team's quarterback. And I just think I trust TJ Watt to do that almost more than anyone else in the NFL. With that being said, I'm starting both defenses in this one and feeling confident. You know, I think there will be mistakes by both quarterbacks. I think there'll be plenty of sacks in this, but I think this is going to be a low scoring defensive game. And I might start both kickers. You know, if you got Chris Boswell out there, you know, I think you feel comfortable in smashing that play. But yeah, I think defenses and kickers will be the deciding X factor in this. And I'd start both of them for both teams because I think they'll score tons of points.
Yep, summed it up perfectly. It's going to be a low scoring defensive battle. You're starting the kickers and defenses in fantasy for sure. Moving on to fantasy, you're starting Justin Fields for the rushing ability. You're definitely starting Najee Harris. Kenneth Walker had a great game on the ground against the Broncos last week. I think Najee could fall into the end zone, have a pretty solid one in this game. George Pickens, you're starting, but you're just not excited about it with Surtain shadowing him the entire game. Expect a limited upside with Pickens, and then that's it for the Steelers. For the Broncos, I'm not starting anyone for the Broncos. I'm just not going to start Javonte Williams or Sutton. If you really want to start Jaleel McLaughlin, if you think he's going to get some PPR points for you, I think he could get like around 10 points. The ceiling just isn't anything really special. So that being said, I think we covered this game pretty well.
Yeah, 100%. You know, let's get off of this snooze fest. However, this one must be on your TV because this is our split. So it's the only one that matters.
The only must watch of the entire week, but maybe we'll have one in the last two games here. Let's go into Sunday night football. The 1-0 Chicago Bears are going to go into Houston, play the 1-0 Houston Texans. The Texans are 6-point home favorites. Caleb Williams versus CJ Stroud. This is must watch TV. This will be a really, really fun Sunday night football matchup. Super excited for this one. You know, could be a big offensive battle. The Bears offense really disappointed in week one. But like I said, I think the Titans defense is underrated. I do think the Bears will figure some more things out in this one. That being said, I got to pick the Texans in this one. I don't know if they cover that pretty large 6-point spread. I think it will be a close game, actually, but I do just got to pick the Texans. They know how to take care of business. They know how to get the job done, seal the deal at the end of the game. You know, you saw that beautiful connection to seal the game against the Colts from CJ Stroud and Nico Collins to Nico laid out for it on third down. Just a beautiful, beautiful play. They have that, you know, intellectual Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection. Just when the play breaks down, they'll find each other. They're just so clutch. I got to take the Texans to win this one. Got to take the Texans to win pretty much every game all year. Just love this team. Love D'Amico Ryans. That defense will be playing tough on Caleb Williams for his second career game. Got to go with the Texans.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm going to ride with the Texans, obviously, as well. This was our sweetheart, darling team that we are going to be higher than anyone else last year. We might be the same thing. I don't know how much higher you can be on the Texans from seeing them last year, but I'm definitely going to be high on them. And this is, you know, I'll throw it out there. This is a, you know, I wouldn't say dark horse candidate for the Super Bowl, but this is a team I love to upset the Chiefs in the AFC. You know, if I think if a team's going to do it, I think the Texans are the team to beat the Chiefs. You know, I think they're the team that's most competitive for roster wise and talent and coaching. So, you know, if give me the Texans, you know, as my dark horse, not dark horse, whatever you want to consider them, Super Bowl favorites. Because I mean, this team is just so built, and you know, it seems like they figured out a run identity with Joe Mixon, which is so exciting. Yeah, I think you know they have enough stars and you know defensive talent to just really go against anyone and make it a game. I think every single game is going to be good. They should be favored in mostly every single game. And yeah, I'm going to ride with CJ Stroud, who give me CJ Stroud for MVP. I'll say it right now. I'll call my shot. Give me CJ Stroud for MVP and Madden cover.
Yeah, put some money on it. I think CJ Stroud for MVP is actually a pretty good bet, honestly. So go to Vegas, go drive down there and put some money on the stores. I definitely like that. Even throw a dart at Caleb Williams, Rookie of the Year. While you're at it, this should be a really electric game. Moving on to fantasy, let's start with the Bears. Obviously, DJ Moore's a must start. Caleb Williams, I'm not starting until he proves it. This would be a good matchup for him, but I'm still kind of waiting unless you're desperate at quarterback. Uh, DeAndre Swift kind of scares me. I'm not excited to start him, but I think you do have to start him, especially in this matchup. I think things will get better. He did have a decent amount of volume, so I would start DeAndre Swift as a last chance. If he doesn't impress in this game, then he has a bench for me. And then Keenan Allen, if he's healthy, there is a little bit of a suspicious injury going on with him, but if he's healthy, Romo Dunze shouldn't be playing in this one because he is injured as well with the MCL sprain. So I do think Keenan Allen will be a target hog like he was last week, and he'll definitely be a nice PPR option. And then for the Texans, you start CJ Stroud, you start Nico Collins, you start Stephon Diggs, who had 2 touchdowns last week. You start Tank Dell, who's probably going to have a long touchdown this week because he's playing me in fantasy. You start everyone. Joe Mixon's coming off the best, running back performance. He was just a complete monster on the ground, had so much volume. You're starting everyone in the Texans. Don't even need to talk about them.
Yeah, you said it perfect. I'm just going to throw one more thing out about Keenan Allen. He did receive 11 targets, which was the team leading in targets. That is 4 more than DJ Moore received. So I could see Keenan Allen just being so valuable from a PPR standpoint. However, he only came down with 4 of those targets. So if he plays and he's good, obviously there's a heel injury there, but look for some really good positive progression. I think Caleb Williams, hopefully, he cuts the tape. He realizes he got to slow it down. He does not need to play Superman hero ball and try and do too much. You're not in the Pac-12. Let's play NFL football. Let's hang in that pocket and let's find our receivers. And I think, as me and you saw with Caleb Williams, we have full confidence that he'll have a bounce back game. I think he'll be great. But yeah, from that standpoint, though, I do want everyone, if Keenan Allen does play, target him. I think he is a must start.
Yeah, look for a bounce back game from Caleb Williams. I do think he'll be much better. And this should be a pretty close game, a really fun Sunday night football game, a fun matchup. Let's go on to the last game of the week, the Monday night football matchup. The Atlanta Falcons, who are 0-1, are going to go into Philly, play the 1-0 Eagles, who are 6.5-point home favorites here. I gotta just tell you this real quick because this surprised me. Jalen Hurts was the lowest graded quarterback of PFF with a 29.8 PFF grade in week one. Obviously, the turnover worthy plays didn't help, but there were some really bad quarterback performances. Will Levis, Bo Nix come to mind. Jalen Hurts with a 29.8 PFF grade. That is interesting. He did start really bad. He definitely picked it up though, and obviously won the game. He threw some nice throws. That throw to Saquon Barkley was a beauty. I do think that this Eagles team is pretty impressive. They still got the win in Brazil against a really good Packers team. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I'll get my pick out of the way. I do think Jalen Hurts has a nice bounce back game. I think obviously AJ Brown, Devontae Smith against this really good Falcons secondary will still just eat because they're kind of matchup proof at this point. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think Saquon Barkley again has a great game on the ground. I think he's the #1 fantasy running back right now. Like rest of season, you got to rank him #1, especially for this week. I think Saquon Barkley is just an awesome option. He was an awesome draft pick, and I'll be honest, I kind of faded him, so that was a miss by me. But I think this Eagles offense will be really solid. I think this Vic Fangio Eagles defense impressed me. I think they're going to be pretty solid this season as well. They looked somewhat decent. They kind of had Jordan Love confused in Brazil. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. The Falcons are no slouch on defense. Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons played a great game. AJ Terrell will be shadowing AJ Brown here. The linebackers looked really good for the Falcons, but I got to take the Eagles because Kirk Cousins looked just so abysmal. Like I'm almost a week out of putting Michael Penix in. That's how bad he looked. He couldn't target Drake London, their #1 receiver. This offense is really just Bijan Robinson versus the world, unless Kirk Cousins really just picks it up and looks drastically better because he looked rough.
So my takeaway is you only need to watch the Broncos and the Steelers football game because the rest of it is an absolute lock. Obviously, I'm going with the Eagles after that, historic meltdown by the Atlanta Falcons. I have no confidence going into week 2 after seeing that just abysmal performance by Kirk Cousins. I just can't bet on that guy. And yeah, I mean, I'll just get right into it with a fantasy aspect. I'm feeling very, very confident in Bijan Robinson. I think this entire offense is going to run through him. Drake London, obviously you're starting him, and Kyle Pitts, obviously you're starting them. You're hoping there's some progression. Obviously, Kyle Pitts was a high tight end because he actually scored a touchdown, which many tight ends did not do in the NFL last week. So it was pretty terrible performance from almost every tight end. But you're hoping, you're hoping they can get back on track, and I think you're kind of handcuffed to start Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I'm really not starting anyone else until I can see a good Kirk Cousins game. And then, yeah, like we said, the Eagles are chalk. You're starting. It's Jalen Hurts, it's Devontae Smith, it's AJ Brown, it's Saquon Barkley, obviously Dallas Goedert because there's just no other tight ends. I'm sure if you're that, you know, 11th, 12th man to draft a tight end in your league, you probably got a Dallas Goedert or somebody like that, and you're forced to start him every week. So you're hoping for a good game there. But yeah, I think the Eagles will come in here and I think they'll take care of business handily. But yeah, I did not realize that Jalen Hurts. I mean, there was some pretty bad football played by Jalen Hurts, especially at the beginning. And so I can understand why he had, the lowest grade, but I just can't believe it really was the lowest grade out of all the quarterbacks. So that was news to me.
Yeah, considering how bad some of the quarterback play was, definitely a surprising stat. But yeah, you worded fantasy perfectly. Eagles, you know exactly who you're starting, all of them to be exact. And then for the Falcons, it's just Bijan Robinson. If I'm being honest, I benched Drake London for Jerome Ford / David Montgomery. I'm starting both of them over Drake London in one of the leagues that I drafted him in the second round. So I'm not saying that Drake London's a must start. I'm really not, especially against, Darius Slay against a pretty decent secondary. If you have better options, I would probably go away from Drake London until Kirk Cousins especially proves that he can target the guy, target his number one receiver, and be a better quarterback and be a better thrower because his arm looked like a noodle. So really, it's just Bijan Robinson. I think Darnell Mooney's droppable. Honestly, I'm really disappointed by him. And I think it's just Bijan Robinson versus the world. I think you worded it perfectly. You can start Kyle Pitts as well. I guess I forgot him because the tight ends are so scarce. You can start these tight ends, and that's it. Fun matchup here, fun Monday Night Football, fun primetime games in this week. But really fun talking about the week 2 preview picks. We went really in depth in this one. You already gave your exit hot take. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
We hit 2,000 subs. Got to say thank you to everyone. Keep liking, sharing, commenting, whatever you can do to help the algorithm. We love and appreciate you guys. Help keep the lights on around here. Help us keep, promoting and building this channel because, we're 2 years into it, 2,000 subs, or sorry, a year into it with 2,000 subs. So, hopefully we can just keep doubling that every year and continue to grow this channel.
Yeah, definitely really appreciate the support on the early season episodes that we've been putting out, all the fantasy content we've been putting out. Stay tuned to the NFL Secrets podcast. Like, comment, subscribe if you liked. Peace out.
Peace.